Representative Ilhan Omar attacked in Minneapolis as Trump vows to de-escalate state tensions. How political confrontation, immigration crackdowns, and rising violence intersected in Minnesota. On January 27th, during a highly charged town hall meeting in Minneapolis, U.S. Representative Ilhan Omar was attacked by a man who sprayed her with an unknown substance from a syringe, an incident that occurred as President Donald Trump publicly signaled a desire to de-escalate the volatile situation in Minnesota. The confrontation highlighted the intensifying political tensions surrounding federal immigration enforcement and the risks faced by lawmakers in the current polarized environment. A town hall turns violent. The town hall was held in North Minneapolis, where Omar, a Democratic congresswoman representing Minnesota's 5th District, was addressing constituents about the state of federal immigration enforcement and local community concerns. Omar has been a prominent critic of aggressive immigration policies carried out by U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE, and other federal law enforcement units deployed in the state under a sweeping crackdown that has seen thousands arrested and multiple shootings of civilians. As she concluded a speech calling for the abolition of ICE and demanding that Department of Homeland Security, DHS, Secretary Kristi Noem step down or face impeachment, a man from the front row rushed the stage. He sprayed Omar with a liquid from a syringe. Witnesses described it as pungent and vinegary, though its precise contents have not been publicly identified. Minneapolis police and venue security quickly tackled and restrained the assailant, later identified as Anthony Kosmierczak, 55, and arrested him on suspicion of third-degree assault. Despite the unexpected attack, Omar was not physically injured and chose to continue her remarks, signaling resilience in the face of intimidation. "I'm a survivor, so this small agitator isn't going to intimidate me from doing my work," Omar later said on social media, adding, "We are Minnesota strong." Political climate and rising hostility. The incident unfolded against a backdrop of deepening conflict in Minnesota, where federal immigration operations, labeled Operation Metro Surge, have triggered widespread protests and sharp political divisions. The surge, backed by the Biden administration's DHS, but implemented under Trump's leadership, has resulted in thousands of arrests and the fatal shootings of at least 2 U.S. citizens by federal agents, including Alex Preddy, an ICU nurse, earlier that week. Omar's criticism of federal enforcement, including calls to abolish ICE and hold DHS leadership accountable, had already made her a frequent target of incendiary rhetoric from opponents, particularly from former President Trump. In a speech earlier on the same day in Iowa, Trump had singled her out, urging that immigrants should only be admitted if they show that they love our country, and comparing her unfavorably to that standard. Hours before the attack, the White House was signaling a tactical change. Trump said the federal government would de-escalate a little bit in Minneapolis following the protests over the fatal shootings. He framed this not as a complete withdrawal of enforcement, but as an effort to reduce tensions. Trump also defended DHS Secretary Noem, stating she was doing a very good job and would not step down despite mounting criticism. Reaction from leadership and community leaders. The attack on Omar and the broader environment of hostility drew condemnation from leaders across the political spectrum. Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey called the assault unacceptable, stressing that political disagreement should never escalate into physical danger. Republicans such as Representative Nancy Mace also decried the violence, emphasizing that threatening public officials undermines democratic discourse. Meanwhile, local and national protests against immigration enforcement had been ongoing for weeks, often peaceful but charged with fervent opposition to ICE operations in the city. The recent 2026 Minnesota general strike, organized by unions and community activists, was part of the broader mobilization demanding an end to aggressive enforcement actions, reflecting deep anger and societal strain. Omar's attack also comes amid unusually high threat levels faced by members of Congress. U.S. Capitol Police reported a significant rise in threat assessment cases in 2025, indicating growing concerns for the safety of lawmakers, especially those at the center of contentious national debates. Polarization, rhetoric, and violence. The juxtaposition of Trump's de-escalation remarks with the attack on Omar illustrates a paradox at the heart of contemporary U.S. politics. While the administration has expressed intent to calm tensions in a community rocked by protest and violence, inflammatory rhetoric directed at public figures like Omar continues to fuel polarization. In the aftermath, some national commentary, including statements attributed to Trump in certain outlets, went further, with unverified claims that Omar might have staged the incident herself. These statements were widely criticized for undermining public trust and contributing to an environment where political discourse slips toward personal attacks rather than constructive solutions. The assault also underscores broader questions about the safety of democratic engagement. Town halls and public forums, traditionally spaces for elected officials to interact with constituents, are increasingly becoming sites where political vitriol can manifest in physical threats, feeding public anxiety about the future of civil dialogue. Looking ahead, de-escalation or deepening divide. The events in Minneapolis raise critical questions for the nation as it grapples with immigration policy, governance, and political discourse. President Trump's vow to de-escalate tensions around federal enforcement efforts marks a tactical shift that may aim to ease immediate conflict, but its effectiveness depends on actions beyond rhetoric and on efforts to address the underlying issues that fuel animosity in communities like Minneapolis. For Representative Omar, the attack has become another chapter in her long tenure as a polarizing but resilient figure in American politics, rooted in her identity as a Somali-American refugee and her advocacy on behalf of immigrant and civil rights. Her decision to continue the town hall after the assault and her subsequent public statements reflect a determination not to let intimidation derail public service. As national leaders call for responsible political language and increased protections for public servants, the Minneapolis episode highlights the challenges ahead for a deeply divided electorate. With policy battles over immigration enforcement and the role of federal agencies still unfolding, the interplay between political rhetoric, public safety, and democratic engagement remains at the center of the country's political discourse.